So a lot of Twitter trends and chatter today about a new Indian origin CEO who will join an illustrious list of those hailing from India who are now helming some of the largest companies in the world. Mahindra Group Chairman Anand Mahindra also applauded the appointment of Indian origin CEOs at the world's most iconic companies. He says it's now an unstoppable trend. This statement, of course, comes after coffee giant Starbucks informed that the company has appointed its new CEO, Lakshman Narasimhan. With this appointment, Narasimhan joins a growing tribe of Indian origin CEOs at the helm of US-based global giants, including Microsoft, which is headed, of course, by Satya Nadella, Adobe CEO Shantanu Narayan, Alphabet CEO Sundar Pichai, and several others. Anand Mahindra also went on to say that international boardrooms see Indian origin CEOs to be an almost quote-unquote safe bet. Now, the question that we're asking today from our panel is that, is this just a coincidence? Look at the size of our population. As a percentage of that, should we really be harping on Indian origin CEOs? And do we have this tendency to appropriate all successful Indian origin people, whether they truly continue to be Indian citizens or not? So to speak on some of those aspects, I'm joined today by Sunil Alag, independent business consultant, K. Ganesh, promoter, Big Basket, Portia Medical Home Loan and Home Lane, Varun Sachdev, APAC recruitment and business leader at NLB Services, and Anas Rahman Junaid, founder and MD of Hurun India. Welcome to all of you and great to have you on the show today. Mr. Junaid, let me begin with your take on this claim that Indian CEOs are a safe bet. And what do you make and what has been your response to Mr. Narasimhan's appointment as the head of Starbucks?
So thanks for this opportunity. I don't really, I mean, it's a really great news that more and more Indian origin professionals are leading some of the biggest companies in the world. So congratulations to him, and it's great news for us. I think the one point that I can add here, which possibly just to give you a relevance of this appointment is, we launched a list called the Hurun Global 500, which is the most valuable 500 non-state-run enterprise in the world. And if I just take the number of the cumulative value of the companies that are run by Indian CEOs in the list, it comes to almost 5 trillion US. That's the valuation of all the businesses run by Indian CEOs. And so that's more than almost twice the GDP of India, right? So and this trend is only going to increase. So I just added Starbucks today to that list. So the valuation went up. So the trend is only going to increase. And I really
now
see...
Mr. Junaid, so how much is it now? It's more than 5 trillion, you said?
Yeah, it's more than 5. Yeah, cumulative valuation of all the businesses in Hurun Global 500 run by Indian CEOs.
Wow.
So
wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Sunil Alag, when we were discussing this story this morning in our editorial meeting, someone said, "Ye sab kis chakki ka aata khate hain?" Should we be, excited about them all being Indian origin, or are we unnecessarily appropriating, people who are American citizens largely, happen to be of Indian origin, but there's so many people from different parts of the world in America. What's the big deal?
I would put it down as we are better at managing both diversity and adversity. That's what you have to remember, that look, if you're of Indian origin, you've done your basic education here, whether somebody headed Pepsi or not in FMCG, she did her from IIM Calcutta and whatever, and then she went across to America. I'm not talking about citizens who are born in America or born in England, Indians who are there. That's different when their parents have gone. So we are better at managing both diversity as well as adversity. Now, what I mean by managing diversity is that, look, whether it's culture, whether it's rural, whether it's urban, you're talking about someone who has learned in India, a largest population of consumers, China and India are, and we've learned very quickly on how to manage religions, how to manage we are talking about the CEOs now, the ones who are making it. We've learned how to manage the culture. We've learned how to manage different kinds of people, different kinds of foods. And we are at the moment much more available. Now, when I talk about adversity, I mean, at a young age, most of the generalization that I'm making, they have come from very different backgrounds. They didn't have a very rich background. They didn't have someone who was paying for them. as opposed to the Western culture of growing up in a land of plenty. They've grown up in a land of few. Therefore, they've managed resources. They are different in terms of human beings, and that is why they make it.
Yeah, some would argue that these are people who've gone to some of the best Indian institutions, which they could only because they come from relatively well-to-do families in India. And a lot of relatively well-to-do families. And a lot of these institutions are state subsidized.
No, all I'm saying is an IIT student is a question of subsidy. IIMs, for instance, if you said that you needed a scholarship and you came in and on that system, you got it. There was no question of being denied that. And we tend to offer what they have now worked out in America as giving loan waivers, which works out to trillions. I mean, dollars, which the Biden has given. Now, we don't have to do that. The companies itself, whether we are there or not, we offer that. In IIMs, they are not the same. Please don't misconstrue what I'm saying. Look, we brought up in terms of we don't throw the elders out. Anyone who's over 30, around 30 when he goes to America, or 25 or 30, he's brought up in a culture which is very different. And then he might spend 20 years in America or 20 years in. Why aren't they taking people? Why is levers taking people from India? First, they show themselves in the East, then they show themselves in Africa, then they go on to America because they find that the Indians are the best at adapting. We are the best in terms of diversity, as I said, as well as adversity. We know how to manage. And that is what is very, very important, because the Western Europe, they're growing up in a culture which is giving them a land of plenty.
Okay.
They've got everything going.
So that's an interesting point. K. Ganesh, do you agree that the cultural influence of making the most of what you have, and dare I say, jugaad, helps you to and equips you to run great large companies?
No, I absolutely agree. I think one, it's good news. Obviously, we are not ashamed, and like the media has been doing in appropriating the success of Indian origin. Whatever may be the level of Indianness they still display, they are of Indian origin, and absolutely nothing wrong in feeling happy about it and getting some brownie points or bragging rights and doing that. That's perfectly fine. But I do agree that one, there is a strong filtering mechanism in India. The level of competition to get into a good engineering college, be it IIT or top level engineering institute, the level of competition to get into IIM is phenomenal. So if you are in IIT or an IIM or any of the top institution, you already are cream of the cream. So I'm not surprised at all that when you go abroad, you disproportionately stand out compared to our average local population, because you are not the average. Otherwise, you would not have the opportunity to go abroad. So the strong filtering mechanism does that. Two, I agree with Sunil Alek. The fact that unfortunately, a lot of things are broken. India is a very hard country to grow up in. It's not a land of plenty. It is not even it's not just about land of plenty. It is that we have everything broken here. A person has to go to school or to college to navigate through, to get to admission, to get to coaching, to do that. So much they will not have. And third, the diversity that you talked about, any person who has worked in Indian company has dealt with multiple languages, multiple religions, multiple culture, multiple tastes. Therefore, the way he has been hardened and tempered, the ability to get along with all of these people is so much, which a person in, say, a small Europe, Norway or Sweden, just to name some countries, will not be there. Having said all of this, I think we should stop there and see what does it mean for us. Good bragging right, yes. Two, more importantly, look at it. It has established us in the world. For me, what is exciting about this is not the individual. What is exciting about this is, if people in the world can see Indian-born, Indian origin people as CEOs, they see the talent that is there. Will it mean can we attract a lot more India investment? We already are having. This is not about just them. This is not just about them. No. Today, the global SaaS companies that were coming out of India is phenomenal. So that this adds to the respect for India, respect for Indian talent, respect for Indian capability.
Does it also, do we also need to ask right now, to ask right now while we pat ourselves on the back, etc., and why not celebrate? And I get your point, K. Ganesh. Why always be so cynical? Okay, it's a bragging right, so enjoy it. But Varun Sachdev, should we also ask ourselves why some of these very talented individuals who pass through these tough filtration processes that K. Ganesh was talking about and graduate from great schools find better career options and opportunities outside Indian shores? We need to also recognize that where is the equivalent of those companies in India for them to lead?
So, Tamanna, in my opinion, I think the world is definitely changing. And today, if we call it, India is definitely the land of opportunities. And, whatever we have seen in the West happening in the last probably 2 or 3 decades, I think the similar stuff is happening in India today as well. And just to add to the points, what my fellow, participants also talked about, the reason why the organizations are looking for the Indian talent to lead the global operations is first definitely the acceptance of change and uncertainty. And if you look at it today in the today market, every company is grappling with some form of disruption. Now picture India. We are a country with 1.4 billion people, dozens of languages, uneven infrastructure. At every stage, there is uncertainty, including whether water will emerge from the tap in the morning to brush your teeth. That's also, a probability. So what basically this leads to? This breeds both an acceptance of forces beyond our control, and also it allows innovation and patience with process to coexist in a corporate bureaucracy. That's what I think is the reason why Indians are the best bet when the organizations are talking about leading the global organization in different geographies. Also, just two more points from my side.
Sure.
Indians have the ability to predict. So, for a leader, it is very important to understand what is shaping the entire market place. And when we talk about our ecosystem, the example which I gave earlier, we have the capacity and the quality of embracing the data and constantly planning, for something which, if the plan A doesn't work, and again, if the water doesn't come in the morning, what will be the plan B? And
So these are the guys with the plan B. But I want to ask you, Mr. Sachdeva, as you're someone in recruitment, surely these companies, when they're looking at options, don't start looking at someone because they're Indian, right? I mean, if you look at it the other way around, we are feeling very happy that a lot of them happen to be Indian, but that's not how the process started. It just is perhaps a happy coincidence that so many turned out to be of Indian origin.
Yeah, so there is a reason behind it. So today, if we talk about India is the largest market for any global organization. So, when organizations, they started, expanding and pouring into new geographies, they realized that they have to have a local person with the right intelligence to lead a particular market. And that's why they started hiring Indians in India or maybe globally as well, so that they can understand the culture, what exists in India. And the reasons what I shared earlier as well, that acceptance of change and uncertainty is the best with Indians, and backed by the robust education system, especially the STEM. When we talk about science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, we are extremely strong in that. And what requires the today's market is analytical ability, and that's also something which is backed by mathematics. So combining all these factors, the company started hiring Indians, and when they realized that the people were actually able to go up the ladder pretty quickly, that's where it was all about, the qualities which were shown by the people. That's how they got the opportunity. It was not that, the Indians were hired to be the CEO of the organization in the long term. Also, one more aspect what I want to talk about is Indian CEOs basically have a tendency to execute rather than just planning and giving the directions. That's also very important in a current VUCA environment for the organization to grow and sustain. And that's why we see a lot of organizations going the route.
They're more hands-on leaders. Sunil Alag,
Yes.
Are we stretching the point too much? I mean, we have now bestowed anyone of Indian origin, thanks to their genes, so many qualities of leadership. It's a wonder that there are any other kind of CEOs at all, on a lighter note. So are we stretching the point, or is there truly something different?
The important thing is that, we have an entrepreneurial DNA. You talk about any Indian, I want to add to all the points made as an entrepreneurial DNA, and therefore we have a strong business sense. Right from when you go to a rural market or you go to anybody else or you go to even the lower income group, they all want to have some business, some entrepreneurial DNA exists in India. And therefore they have a great business sense on how to make money, how to take a company forward. So apart from all the other points made, look, you're right about not picking an Indian first. You have to first define what job are you looking for. Somehow the Indians fit there because they have a great entrepreneurial spirit, they have a good DNA, they know how to handle diversity, they know how to come from an area where, so the very rich and the very poor are not a question of asking which income group is coming in. But we as Indians are like that. And therefore, apart from us, there are Chinese which are there, but China is being left behind only because of the fact that China as a country is looked upon differently. But at the moment that we are the two largest markets.
No, is it also because of the language barrier? Since we're looking at this objectively?
English, yeah. We train everybody in English. That's another very important point. Before I forget, other than we are trained in English. And therefore, there's another, like Levers and Nestle and all have been in India for over 50, 60 years already. So therefore, the training that they give, anybody who joins those companies, for 2 years, we are asked to go into all the markets. I went into all the markets. So it's like where my father was in the lower middle income group. So don't think it's only the rich who come in. Huh? Please, understand that our training and all these companies which we consider as multinational, they've been in India for 60 years. And therefore, they've seen the talent that comes up, That's very important.
That's very true, Mr. Alag. You've had a really admirable corporate journey, which is why your views are so relevant today. Mr. Junaid, let me come to the point of how many more we'll see. Anand Mahindra talked about how this is just the beginning. And should we look at questions of, I come back to that, can we give the same opportunities here? Some of our largest companies and largest opportunities, largest businesses are all promoter-led. Of course, they have CEOs, they have a lot of opportunities, but there is a glass ceiling. And it's not the same culture as multinationals have. Should we also look inwards and admit that some of our best talent would rather work in a multinational kind of a work culture?
I think that scenario is also drastically changing. When we just to look at the evolution of the Horan Rich List, which we've been putting out for the last 10 years. In the last year's Rich List, when we put out, there were at least 13 professional managers who featured in the Rich List, right? And out of that, 4 or 5 were from Indian companies and Indian businesses. So I think it's just a matter of where the economy is leading and how the economy is going to grow and how big these companies are in India tapping onto these opportunities. So you would see a lot more professional managers coming into the picture. And just to add one point, I really looking at all the family ownership structures and where the generations are, the next 10, 15 years would see one of the biggest intergenerational wealth transfers in India. You could start seeing it from Reliance to a lot more other companies, which means there'll be a lot more professional managers being active in Indian families and promoter-run businesses. So you could definitely see a lot more super smart people staying back in India because the opportunity, the growth opportunity is really in India the next decade. So a lot more very smart people, equivalent of Satya Nadella or Sundar Pichai, all these guys staying back in India, growing really big businesses being built from India. So I think it's going to be pretty exciting the next 10, 15 years to become a very good professional manager, staying back in India.
So, okay, Ganesh, you agree that the opportunities will soon be the same at that point about the best talent wanting that multinational kind of exposure?
No, absolutely. I think both from the point of view of staying in India with multinational companies present in India or offshore centers in India, to actually investments coming into India to start businesses here. You look at the number of unicorns we are churning out by the month, look at the valuation, look at the size of the opportunity, whether it is UPI or it's fintech or it's digital payment, everything points to India opportunity for the next 10, 20 years. Therefore, developments like this, where the Indian origin person gets recognized, will only add positive attraction for investors and for the world to look at India, Indian talent, companies in India to serve global market. I was mentioning global SaaS companies from India as a great example. This was unthinkable 10 years back. Today, you will see almost dominant position of global SaaS companies from India serving the world. Now, so right from opportunity to create India-based companies for Indian markets to global companies from India for the market, the opportunities here that automatically will do it. I don't think we should worry about people going abroad and becoming CEOs there. That still is a very small portion. The amount of value, valuation, jobs being created here is phenomenal. And remember that today, where we stand, China is looking inward. China is not going to the place where people are going for multiple reasons. Europe is fragmented and small. US is capped out. Where is the one and only opportunity to build, create value, and invest money and do operations? That's India. So definitely for people, this is opportunity. Meanwhile, let's all celebrate. Don't question the Indianness of the people
Why
who
it's
are on there.
important, and K. Ganesh, this thought is coming from what you said earlier in the show, that what does this mean for India, and you explained how it might make us more attractive towards investment. I think it's also important to look up on a global scale for budding entrepreneurs, for young Indians, and see someone who looks like them. That kind of representation is key, it's important, it's inspiring. And why can today some young kid in IIT, IIM or wherever not aspire to be the next CEO of the next global MNC? So in that sense, representation does count, whether it's happened on purpose or just by chance. Thank you so much to all of you for a fascinating conversation this evening.